And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Dracochi. Did I get that name right? Who asked the question, who lives in a fight? Luffy from One Piece versus Accelerator from a certain magical index. I believe it's certain magical index, right? I believe that's the series he's from. Or certain magical accelerator. Luffy, we had on the channel a few times. I do the Devil Fruit series. I know One Piece well enough to certainly know Luffy. He is, the captain of the Straw Pirates, also the king of the pirates. He is the current wielder of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, the Gum Gum Fruit, also realized as the mythical Zoan, human model, Sun Nika, Sungun Nika. In essence, it makes him a rubber man. He is impervious to most blunt force trauma, although it's absorption, not nullification, to quote my hero. So that means there's a limit to what he can take, right? But no, seriously, and strong enough force could hurt him even with his rubber body. That being said, with his advanced hand-to-hand combat skills, knowledge of all three hockeys, observation hockey for recognizing incoming threats, conqueror's hockey for enforcing your will on the others, and armament hockey for armoring your body with a black energy. Add on that with a high degree of physical capabilities, just natural strength, and hand-to-hand combat capabilities. Luffy is a very powerful fighter. He's gone toe-to-toe with some of the strongest individuals in the series so far, including the likes of Crocodile, who had a Logia that absorbed moisture out of the target, and it was just pure sand, and yet he was still able to figure out a way to beat him. He beat Kaido, the king of the beasts, the strongest beast. The Kaido feat's a pretty big feat, because Kaido was said to basically be near impervious to harm, could survive God knows how far drop from the sky and walk it off, literally could turn into a dragon. Took Luffy everything he had, including awakening his newest form, Gear 5, to do it, but he did it. His Gomu Gomu states had what he calls gears, basically ways to amp himself. Gear 1 basically just is his normal form. Gear 2 is where he pumps the rubber blood in his body faster, increasing like oxygen intake. It looks like steam's coming off him, and allows him to pretty much go farther, faster, harder, longer. Gear 3 allows him to basically inflate his arms and legs, basically the parts of his body for massive attacks. Originally, this actually changed him into a more childlike form when he used to use it, but now he's fine. Gear 4 allows him to basically turn into either Snake Man or Bouncing Man. And essentially combines a combination of armament hockey, which is where you get the blackened parts of his arms. But he also increases his strength and his body's just rebound capability by inserting air in there as well. It's going, but again, containing his body in a certain way. Bound Man is used, and I think there's Tank Man too. Bound Man is used for offensive capabilities, but it also has more of a defensive capability as well. Snake Man is more predominantly for speed and power, and I think Tank Man is mostly the defensive one. As such, he can take massive amounts of damage as he normally can. And then, obviously, Gear 5 is his most powerful form to date, where he essentially becomes a living cartoon. Literally. His heartbeat is now like this drum's liberation. It doesn't beat in the conventional sense anymore. He literally is capable, and the way, now, find out Gear 5 real quick here, but the way, a lot of people say, well, he has Tune Force now. Kind of, but he doesn't have legitimate Tune Force. Gear 5, Luffy. What you really, because it's still the Devil Fruit's abilities kind of manifesting, and it's more or less an awakened devil. But with Gear 5, essentially, he has limb inflation in Gear 3, no muscle inflation. That's what Gear 4 does. It's not limb inflation. It's actually his muscles that are being inflated. But basically, the powers of the awakened Hito no Mi model Nika are centered around freedom. Luffy describes himself as, or has described Gear 5's transformation as being completely free. It is even based on the ability to imagine himself with the most freedom. Most notably, its power allows him to overwhelm Kaido, and whose strength is further enhanced by the was also enhanced. The fruit's true power, however, does not lie in the rubbery physiology it grants. Rather, allows the user to turn whatever they imagine into reality. Notably, The user's capabilities in combat are only limited to their imagination, allowing them to fight however they want in ways that defy common sense. Basically, when he awakened it against Kaido, he basically like rubberized the ground at one point. He was able to he took a direct hit from the bolo breath, only to come out with virtually unharmed, despite being cartoonishly charred. And just a laser while only suffering brief discomfort from the heat. The awakening of the fruit also grants the user a faster recovery rate, which functions involuntary even when Luffy's unconscious. In fact, the physical feats that Luffy can pull off in Gear 5 border on near the absurd. He can spin his legs fast enough to run through midair while generating enough friction to ignite the fire in its wake, and spin like a top with such force that it turns into a burrowing drill. Even more ridiculous is how Gear 5 Luffy pull feats of cartoonish man. His body is affected in all manners. For example, when Luffy gets hit by Top Man's war-carrying Supreme King Kaki imbued roar, most of the physical features, such as his clothes, eyes, and scars, were literally blown off him before physically reattaching back onto him. Aligning with the mythical zone nature of this fruit, Luffy already's rubber body gains freedom and flexibility, and surpasses that. You can also make other things rubber, like the ground. Let's see here. Is there anything else that's really... This allows him not only increase his power, he's got the physicality, pretty much the physical abilities of both Gear 3 and 4. Its awakening, though, is akin more to a paramecium than a Zoan, extending the user's rubbery nature into the environment and around and others around him. Now, that being said, the strength, because he's not experienced with it enough yet, it consumes plenty of energy for him to maintain using, even to the point that it can appear to have visibly aged him decades once he detransformed, in addition to experience intensive exhaustion and fatigue, although these effects will eventually wear off on their own after a while. In the anime, it's further emphasized that Luffy's color becomes muted. That said, he can fully restore his vitality and stamina right after using Gear 5 by eating excessive amounts of food. Alternatively, he can simply power through the taxing effects of Gear 5 through sheer will, at the cost of extreme fatigue afterwards. However, unlike Paramecium awakenings, Zoan awakenings like Gear 5 carries the inherent risk of innate nature of the animal, like the Gomu Gomu no Mi, derived from Sanganiga consuming the mind of Luffy. In addition, Luffy is still vulnerable to cutting attacks. So, with that said, because he's essentially able to do anything... So it is, in essence, kind of a Toon Force, but Toon Force is one of those things that just naturally comes with Toons. Like, their body, their physiology is just naturally Toon Force. And yes, he can survive charred hits, like charred hits from the Bolo Breath and just look charred and whatever. But for them, he does have a healing factor that works when he's unconscious, but he's got limited time in the state, even with his him pushing past his limits. And if he's not going to get food afterwards, he gets outlasted, he's in trouble. Now, Accelerator is interesting in his own role. He is the second protagonist of the series. His powers come from, the name of his power comes from what his power actually does. His name comes from what his power is. Sorry. Now, Accelerator is, like I said, one of the certain magical index, Toro Majutsu no Index. And he is basically the Gojo, All Might, One Punch Man. He's the strongest character of his verse, more or less. He is insanely powerful, and even in his weakest state, which he is, like, he's not as strong as he used to be due to an injury he had maintained. But Accelerator is named after his ability. It creates a thin field of aim around him. Now, what aim is, real quick, is involuntary movement. Thin field, involuntary movement is a term used to refer to phenomena where an expert involuntarily emits an invisible energy field from around their body, known as an aim diffusion field, closely connected to the personal reality that is the source of the ability. So basically, it's an involuntary movement field that's around them. Now, what his ability actually does is, without amping himself up to umpteenth degrees, it basically allows him to manipulate the vectors modify the vector values of anything he touches. After the events of Frank's brain has been damaged, he's only about half as strong as he used to be. It still makes him the strongest guy in the series. Rather than creating a vector from nothing, he may instead alter the vector of an object that he touches. This aspect of his power is versatile enough to be offensive and defensive. Not needing conscious control, Accelerator can deflect and redirect bolts to strike him or the pressure wave of an explosion without requiring his awareness of the threat. Essentially, it's instinctual. Accelerator may apply his ability consciously ever to such effects such as reversing the blood flow within someone's body if touching an open wound. He must consciously choose which vectors to naturally interact with, including the vectors forces acting on him from gravity or incident light. Incident? It looks like it says incident light. Because of their reflection of light, unnecessary ultraviolet light is deflected from him, which contributes to his lack of ability to produce melanin. His defensive power of his ability is impressive, but if negated or worked around through other means, Accelerator himself is quite fragile and easily beaten down. He's not a physical threat. He acquired black wings towards the end of Volume 13, where he had Epiphany before being nearly killed, and fully awakes in his fight against the number 2 level 5 Esper Kanki Toku. During it, he displays a massive superiority power. Whenever he awakens, Accelerator loses almost all control of himself and begins to speak the language of the angels. He gains the ability to understand the laws that are hereto unknown and unexplainable to him, and no longer needs a contact with vectors in order to control them. When under tremendous emotional pressure, he manifests black wings stated to be the same dark matter that guy creates with his ability. These wings do all the vector-related calculations, and applied to him must fashion the original capabilities. He's also gained white wings and a halo later on. And he still has all that ability. He's also capable of utilizing magic, but it's not his forte. It has bit him in the ass. He's also a high-level genius level intellect, machine ingenuity, marksman, driving skills, and Academy City Board Chairman authority. He does have a modified crutch with which he uses to support his body, which normally contains a small mortar and weight distribution sensor to allow him to determine his center of gravity. So he's kind of safe. So okay. Accelerator, when he's going all out, which you wouldn't, these guys start all out. But when he's going on, also kind of has, lack of better term, kind of reality affecting power. Now, he's not truly affecting reality, he's affecting the vectors around. But this could give him the appearance of a god-like being, as he could just, again, redirect your blood. Probably, I don't know, invert the vectors on your skin to turn you inside out, in theory. He could just control gravity, really, without much difficulty. But he's not always in that form. And now, he still has all these base abilities. He needs to make contact with something in order to use it. Now, that being said, at least he can still control the air around him to manipulate gravity, air pressure, temperature, whatnot. I'll say this. In just their base form, Accelerator's actually probably got an edge on Luffy just because his power is far more versatile. Now, again, the only power he can really utilize against Luffy is anything to do with like the air or anything Luffy is touching, like say the ground. But yeah, in theory, he could overwhelm Luffy. In theory, Accelerator's full power is also very impressive. If he goes full power over Luffy before Luffy goes to Gear 5, Luffy's going to be in trouble. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. But therein lies a big problem, I think, with this pair-up. Is that while his powers are impressive, Gear 5 is a little bit more hacks. Beyond that, even base Luffy has speed feats, strength feats, durability feats that far exceed anything that he's got light speed level feats. Because of the one Devil Fruit user, Kizaru, who's literally got that Pika Pika or light fruit. He literally moves at light speed, and Luffy can match him. So he's already got light speed level feats in base. Then you amp him up with all his gears. Accelerator would have to go into his black wing or white wing form just to kind of go toe to toe with base Luffy. Because Luffy's just going to be able to keep at bay. No damage that he's going to be able to do is going to be significant enough to really harm Luffy. And by the time he goes into, say, black wing form or white wing form, yeah, he might start to overwhelm Luffy and maybe even try to kill him. But then Luffy goes into Sun God form, basically just says, nope. Nope. It's like, vectors, woo! It's like, what are vectors? You just start juggling vectors, like, huh? And then would lay the ever-loving smackdown on Accelerator. Accelerator's best chance to win the fight is early on. He could still knock Luffy out in theory. His vectors could still do some sort of effect that could hurt Luffy. But if he does it early on, it's game, set, match. Luffy's got it, because Luffy just has the endurance to outlast most of what he throws at him and then come out with swinging, literally. Which, as has been stated, Accelerator's not really all that good for. Not really good at handling. So, ultimately, that's my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.